Now, just a little warning here at the start that there will be spoilers for the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier in this video, so if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want anything ruined, it's a really good time to click away. Okay, and right away I have to point out and say how much that I liked and enjoyed the fact that this series started off in a completely different fashion and in an opposite way from WandaVision. Because in that one where we started with this old-time sitcom with no real clue as to what was going on, here we're just thrown right into some straightforward action, with the sequence, the one with Falcon fighting over and in the canyon, that looked incredible, so good I forgot this wasn't a movie. And though action certainly isn't everything, or close to it, I think we just got more of it in the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier than we did in the entirety of WandaVision, which isn't a complaint against WandaVision or anything like that, but instead it's a rather nice change of pace to have a complete tone shift with a show that has now started 2 weeks after the previous one ended. In fact, the writer of this new series, Malcolm Spellman, even came out and said that this series was going to be the antithesis of WandaVision in every way. No real mysteries or anything like that, something more straightforward, and instead something more along the lines of a buddy two-hander, which, though maybe a curious name, just means something that can still manage to have fun with a rather serious situation, and that is very character interaction focused. And as I've said before, one of the best and most brilliant things about the MCU, one of the reasons why it's endured so long already and will continue to do so, is that it has sort of sub-genres within the comic book genre itself. Because though it's obviously all the same universe, it's all in the MCU, this series right here already feels like, no surprise, like it's in the Captain America portion or subgenre of the MCU. It has this totally different feeling when compared to WandaVision, and it's more, you could say, gritty and down to earth, a bit more grounded in reality, even though one of the characters literally flies and is named Falcon. But it's like how the film Winter Soldier, in many ways, doesn't feel so much like a comic book movie as it does a political thriller that happens to have superpowered characters in it. This is already feeling like that to me, and I'm liking that, in large part because I really enjoyed Winter Soldier. I think it's one of the best films in the MCU. I also thought this first episode was a good welcoming back to and of the characters. It's interesting to see how they're both coping with everything that's happened, how they're both coming to terms with the loss of their friend Steve Rogers, of course, and how they and everyone else is dealing with a world a few months removed from the blip where billions of people came back after 5 years, and how the country is dealing without Captain America, their symbol to look up to that they maybe now need more than ever, it feels. However, Sam doesn't think that should be him. He doesn't think he's the one that should take up the mantle and become Captain America, and he even seems to think that the shield essentially belongs in a museum. But right after he turns it in, they give it to someone else. They give it to John Walker and declare him the new Captain America, which is probably not going to go so well, but I'm sure by the end of the series, Sam will take up the mantle and he will become Captain America. But this isn't the only thing he's dealing with. His family, or his sister and his nephews, are having financial problems down in Louisiana with their business, and are maybe looking to sell their family's boat, which Sam sees as part of their family's legacy. They go to a local bank and try to get a loan and are rejected, but Sam vows to not give up, and he vows to keep trying to save the boat. And this is really the one area of the episode that I find a little odd, that they're very much implying being an Avenger and saving the world doesn't pay very well, or at all, really, which maybe in and of itself it wouldn't, but considering Stark basically funded the Avengers, I have a rather hard time believing he didn't pay them and pay them extremely well, knowing they obviously weren't going to be out there working normal jobs and earning an income, yet in many cases would still have families and such, like Sam did, to take care of. And yes, the episode does try to address it by having the banker ask if there's some sort of fund for heroes or if Stark did indeed pay them, but Sam responds there's a tremendous amount of goodwill involved, implying Stark never did pay them or see to it that their families were at least taken care of, which I get that the show doesn't want to imply that the heroes are doing it for the money. They don't want this to be like The Boys, for example, but you'd still think Stark would take care of them regardless. And even if he didn't do it then, if Sam went to, let's say, Pepper or Happy at Stark Industries and told them the situation, certainly they'd give him a loan or just flat out give him the money he needed. I also think in all reality it'd take him all of 5 seconds to land a multi-million-dollar sponsorship deal, which again is maybe too much like The Boys, and maybe it wouldn't sit well with his pride either. Or maybe there's even a clause in his contract with the government that he can't do something like that, which he is clearly working for the government at this point, and it's apparently not paying him very well either. Anyway, just find it a bit of a strange storyline, though granted I don't know exactly where they're even going with it just yet. As for Winter Soldier, or Bucky, we learn that he's been pardoned by the government, but that he is a long way from forgiving or pardoning himself for all that he's done, albeit unwillingly and or unwittingly. We also see that he's plagued by nightmares and is trying in his own way to make amends for all that he did. And I really liked his little friendship that he has with Yuri, though it's kind of heartbreaking at the same time when you realize Bucky is the one who killed his son, and that's why he has sought him out. Bucky seems to have a list of people he's wronged, or a list of amends as he calls them, and that he wants to somehow make things right with these people that he's wronged, though there's also those that he's helped as Winter Soldier, helped in the past, that he wants to see pay or brought to justice, like Senator Atwood. I also really enjoyed the scene with a therapist, or whatever she technically was, where he talks about how his life was just going from one battle to the next for 90 years, and that he says he wants peace and freedom, but wouldn't or doesn't seem to know what he would do with it. They also, mainly in that date scene, remind you of just how old he actually is, that everyone he has ever cared about is now long since gone. And in a way, you have to wonder if he's envious of Steve, who got to go back in time and live out a normal life. As for the overall story or plot, we didn't get too much of that here in the first episode, though not in the same way that, again, we didn't get much from WandaVision in the first episodes, or first couple episodes, but that was kind of intentionally done that way to keep everything a mystery. But instead here, with this episode, it was really just trying to set the mood of the time and to help us peer into the mind of our two main characters and to see where they're currently at before we take them on whatever journey they're about to go on. We also saw Bartok the Leaper again, who was in the movie Winter Soldier, not to mention Rhodey or Colonel Rhodes or War Machine or Iron Patriot, whatever you want to call him. He made a nice cameo in this as well. And we learned a little bit about the LAF as well as the Flag Smashers, but not really anything about what they're up to per se. And though there were several action sequences, and I thought, again, they were very well done, there was also several longer Foley character-driven scenes, which is the beauty of this being a series instead of a movie, because here you can absolutely take the time to slow down and do that, whereas in a movie you usually don't want to slow the pace all that much. And thankfully, it doesn't ruin the pacing of the episode either. I personally didn't find myself losing interest at all during these character-driven scenes, in large part thanks to the exceptional acting here out of Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, and everyone else. This is definitely produced at or very near the same quality level as an MCU film would be. Even the score had a large and epic and movie-like quality to it and gives you the same feeling you got while watching Winter Soldier or Civil War, which is probably because it was done by Henry Jackman, who did those films as well. And so all in all, if I didn't know any better, I would think this was just the next film in the Captain America series. That's the quality level we have here. And so in closing here, I thought this was a really good start and was pretty much exactly what I expected out of it going into it. It's also going to be nice to have a more straightforward type story without everyone coming up with a bunch of crazy theories like kind of happened with WandaVision, though I'm sure there will still be plenty of speculation as this series goes on. Well, that's all I've got for this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you thought of the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Do you like the change of pace from WandaVision? Do you find this more or less enjoyable than that? Whatever the case may be, leave a comment below and let's talk some Marvel. And until next time, thanks for watching.